The first boarding pass I ever issued was to a woman holding a peach cobbler. I tore a rectangle from an index card, wrote, Porch 1A. Rocking chair, non-stop service to shade, and handed it to her with a straight face. She studied it. Do I need identification? No. Baggage allowance? I looked at the cobbler. One dessert item, no checked luggage. She nodded seriously. Excellent airline. From the sidewalk, HOA President Beverly Sutter stopped walking. I had known Beverly long enough to recognize the exact moment she realized I had taken her complaint literally. Her shoulders went stiff, her mouth opened. Then my neighbor Louis Webb stepped onto the porch holding a bowl of potato salad. I raised one hand. Sir, boarding has not begun for Gate 2. Louis looked offended. I have priority status. You brought mayonnaise in August. That is not a crime. It is a risk factor. Beverly closed her eyes. My name is Mason Rourke, and I lived in Harbor Pine Landing outside Mobile, Alabama, where houses had wide porches because summer afternoons were too hot for anyone to make serious decisions indoors. My porch was bigger than most, not enormous. 26 feet across, 8 feet deep, with 4 white columns, 2 ceiling fans, and enough room for 6 chairs without anyone having to climb over another person's knees. When I bought the house 4 years earlier, the porch was empty. Not minimalist. Empty. The previous owner had removed everything before moving. For the first few months, I left it that way. I worked remotely as a logistics planner for a regional seafood distributor, which meant I spent most of my day moving imaginary trucks around spreadsheets, while real trucks developed mechanical problems in places nobody wanted them. By 5 o'clock, I was usually done talking. Then something changed. A hurricane skirted the coast during my second year in Harbor Pine. Nothing catastrophic hit our neighborhood, but power went out for 2 days. People came outside. Not because we were suddenly social, because houses without air conditioning become educational very quickly. I dragged 2 folding chairs onto my porch. My neighbor Luis brought another. A woman from across the street named Janice Cole brought lemonade. Someone else brought a battery radio. By sunset, 8 people were sitting there. We talked. Actually talked. Not waving, not commenting on lawn service, not sending neighborhood app messages. We learned who had generators, who had medication needing refrigeration, who had a chainsaw, who was pretending to understand the generator instructions. The porch became useful. After power returned, people kept stopping. Not every day. Not formally. Sometimes Louis sat there for 10 minutes after walking his dog. Janice brought coffee. A college kid named Trevor Gaines occasionally waited there while his grandmother finished an appointment nearby. On Sunday evenings, 3 or 4 neighbors sometimes appeared with food. Nobody invited the entire neighborhood. Nobody scheduled meetings. People simply sat down. I liked that. I lived alone. I was not lonely exactly. But there is a difference between being comfortable alone and realizing nobody would notice if you spent 3 days arguing with a spreadsheet. The porch gave my house edges that other people touched. That mattered more than I expected. Beverly Sutter noticed too. Unfortunately. Beverly became HOA president the previous spring after spending 6 years on the architectural committee. She was 48, relentlessly organized, always sun-protected, and spoke about common areas with the seriousness of diplomatic borders. She did not dislike people. She disliked unplanned people. A planned gathering had a host, a guest count, a start time, a purpose. My porch had none of those. People appeared. That made Beverly nervous. The first complaint came on a Wednesday evening. Louis, Janice, Trevor, and I were sitting outside. 4 adults. 6 chairs. Nobody blocking anything. Beverly stopped at the sidewalk. Mason? Beverly. How many people are here? I looked around. 4. She looked at the chairs. How many normally? Depends. On what? People. She did not appreciate that. Do you host recurring gatherings? No. This appears recurring. People sit here more than once. That is recurring. Then breathing is recurring. Louis turned his face away. Janice stared into her lemonade. Beverly stepped toward the porch. I am asking because several residents have mentioned congestion. I looked toward the sidewalk. Empty. What congestion? Visual. I blinked. Visual congestion? The porch sometimes appears overcrowded. I looked at the 26-foot porch, then at our 4 bodies. We have 2 empty chairs. That is today. What happened yesterday? I counted 7 people. Louis looked at me. Wild. Beverly continued. Front porches are visible architectural spaces. Yes. Excessive occupancy can change the appearance of a property. Janice finally spoke. Are we furniture now? Beverly looked at her. No. Because I would like upholstery options. Trevor nearly fell out of his chair laughing. Beverly ignored him. She explained that Harbor Pines covenants prohibited habitual congregation that created an obstruction, nuisance, or excessive use of front-facing residential areas. I asked whether anyone had been obstructed. No. Noise complaints? No. Parking? No. Trash? No. Then what exactly was excessive? Beverly looked towards the chairs again. Density. That word ruined my week, not because it made sense, because it sounded official enough to be dangerous. 2 days later, I received a courtesy warning. Excessive porch occupancy / visual crowding. I read it at my kitchen table. Then I called Louis. He came over with reading glasses he did not need. Visual crowding. Yes. What is the legal passenger capacity of the porch? There is no passenger capacity. Fire code? We are nowhere near it. Structural rating? House could probably hold a marching band. Then they are regulating vibes. Apparently. He leaned back. You move trucks for a living. Logistics. You solve capacity problems. Do not. I have not said anything. You are about to. He smiled. If Beverly thinks people are crowding the porch, organize them. No. Assigned seating. No. Timed arrivals. No. Boarding groups. I looked at him. He smiled wider. No. Free boarding passes. I put my head in my hands. The worst part was how quickly the idea became useful. Not because I wanted to parody an airport, because Beverly had used the word occupancy. I could document occupancy. Every seat, every visitor, every time. No crowding, no ambiguity. The system started as 6 index cards. That was it. Each chair received a number. 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B. I wrote Harbor Pine Porch Service across the top. Underneath, boarding pass, free passenger, blank seat, blank, valid for 1 period of sitting. Louis hated the phrase 1 period of sitting. He wanted 1 leg of service. I refused. Then he added it in pencil. Saturday afternoon, Janice arrived carrying peach cobbler. She became passenger 1. Louis became passenger 2. Trevor became passenger 3. I became passenger 4 because Louis insisted crew could not occupy passenger seating without documentation. No money changed hands. No one waited in a line. Nobody advertised anything. I placed a small wooden tray on the porch table labeled "Boarding Passes. Complimentary." That should have been the whole joke. Then Beverly walked past. She saw Janice hand me her card before sitting. "What is that?" "Boarding pass." Beverly stared. "For what?" "The porch. You are issuing tickets?" "Free passes." "To sit?" "Yes." "Why?" "Occupancy management." Her eyes narrowed. "You are mocking the warning." "No." Louis held up his pass. "Seat 2A." Beverly looked at him. "Louis." "Confirmed passenger." "You live next door." "Short haul route." Beverly turned toward me. "This is childish." "It is documentation." "Of what? Exactly how many people are seated?" "You do not need paperwork for that." "You gave me paperwork for that." Janice nodded. "Strong point." Beverly looked at the tray. "Are these available to anyone?" "Anyone I invite onto my porch." "So you are formalizing gatherings." "No." "You have tickets." "Free passes." "Same thing." "No." "How?" "A ticket usually represents purchase or admission." "These represent admission." "They represent a chair." Beverly stared at me, then at chair 3B. "Empty," she pointed. "What happens if someone sits there without a pass?" Louis answered before I could. "Security incident." Beverly looked at him. He looked completely serious. "I am leaving." I smiled. "Safe travels." She walked away. That should have ended the first day. Instead, the boarding passes improved the porch. I hated admitting that. People found them funny. More importantly, they stopped dragging extra chairs over automatically. If all 6 seats were occupied, people stood for a minute or came back later. No crowd, no furniture creep, no 15-person accidental gathering. Beverly's complaint had accidentally made the porch less crowded. Then Louis discovered boarding groups. I came outside Sunday afternoon and found him holding 3 laminated cards. "Absolutely not." "You have not seen them." "I can see laminate." "Durability." "Why are they different colors?" "Boarding priority." I stared. He explained. Group 1, residents over 70. Group 2, anyone carrying food. Group 3, everyone else. "What about me?" "Crew." "What about children?" "Lap passengers." "No." "Unaccompanied minors?" "No." "Pets?" "Cargo." "Leave." He did not. By the following weekend, Harbor Pine Porch Service had become a neighborhood joke. Still 6 chairs. Still free. Still nobody arriving because of it. People simply received a card before sitting. Janice started saying, "Requesting boarding," from the steps. Trevor once showed up with a backpack and asked whether it needed to be gate checked. I told him yes. He put it beneath his chair. That was the entire baggage system. Beverly hated every second. Her next complaint was not crowding. It was signage. The small boarding pass tray had a label. She claimed it could be interpreted as unauthorized commercial or directional signage. I removed the label, then wrote the words directly on the tray. She complained again. I turned the tray around so the words faced only people already on the porch. She said the concept itself created the appearance of an event operation. That phrase was new. Event operation. I emailed asking what event was operating. No answer. Then Beverly tried furniture density. She measured chair spacing from the sidewalk. I moved the chairs 6 inches farther apart. She returned 2 days later. Measured again. Louis watched from seat 2A, quietly, for once. Then he whispered, "Gate agent appears dissatisfied with cabin layout." I nearly laughed. Beverly heard him. "Do not call me that." Louis nodded. "Understood." She looked at me. "You have turned this into a spectacle." "No. People are discussing it. That is not a spectacle. Children are making their own passes." I looked toward Trevor. He shrugged. "My cousins?" Beverly continued. "One said she was flying to Birmingham." "That is ambitious." "She was sitting in a rocking chair. Fuel efficiency excellent." Beverly's eyes narrowed. "This is exactly what I mean." I stopped joking. "What exactly do you mean?" She hesitated. For the first time, I saw the real irritation beneath the procedural language. "People are treating your porch like a public space." "It is private property." "They gather here constantly." "Not constantly." "Often. They are invited." "It creates a center of activity." I looked at her. "And that is bad?" She did not answer directly. "It changes neighborhood patterns." That phrase stayed with me. Neighborhood patterns. Not crowding, not obstruction, patterns. Something about my porch becoming socially important bothered her. But why? Beverly herself hosted annual HOA socials. She organized holiday decorating. She ran community cleanup mornings. She liked participation, as long as participation passed through a calendar. Why did an unscheduled porch threaten her? The mystery started with a boarding pass. Tuesday morning, I found one tucked beneath my doormat. Not one of mine. Mine were white index cards with handwritten seat numbers. This one was printed professionally. Thick cream paper, blue border. At the top, Harbor Pine Landing, Community Connection Survey. Below that, boarding pass 014, no seat, no passenger name. On the back was a handwritten message. "Ask why she counted your porch before anyone complained." I read it twice, then called Louis. He arrived carrying coffee. He read it. "Interesting. Do you know what this is?" "No." "Survey?" "Never saw one." I called Janice. Nothing. Trevor, nothing. Sandra Mills, a neighbor who had lived in Harbor Pine almost 15 years, recognized the phrase Community Connection Survey. Not the pass. The survey. 3 years earlier, the HOA had hired a small consulting firm to study resident engagement. I stared at her. Why? The board was worried nobody attended events. That was almost funny. What happened? Nothing? What did the consultants recommend? Sandra shrugged. More informal gathering spaces. I looked toward my porch. She noticed. Oh. What? I remember one suggestion. What? Conversation nodes. I stared. What is a conversation node? No idea. Benches, maybe? She laughed. They wanted places where people naturally stop. My porch was exactly that, except the HOA had not created it. I had. Sandra frowned. Beverly was on the board then. Was she? Architectural Committee liaison. The mystery sharpened. If Beverly helped commission a study recommending informal gathering spaces, why was she now fighting the most successful informal gathering space in the neighborhood? I searched old HOA emails. The survey summary was still attached to a message from 3 years earlier. No scandal, no hidden money, no secret corruption, mostly boring recommendations. Improve newsletter clarity, create smaller social opportunities, encourage front yard interaction. Then one line caught my attention. Residents report strongest spontaneous connection in small groups of 4 to 6 people located on private front porches and near mailbox areas. 4 to 6 people. Exactly the number Beverly now called visually crowded. I kept reading. Another line. Formal events are less effective at building cross-age familiarity than recurring unscheduled contact. I laughed once, not because it was funny, because Beverly hated unscheduled contact. The report had basically recommended my porch before I owned the house. Then I noticed the appendix. Participation notes. Board interview excerpts. One anonymous board member had written, "Informal gathering is valuable, but should not develop into private centers of influence outside HOA structure." I read it again. Private centers of influence. That sounded like Beverly. Maybe. Maybe not. I had no proof. Then Thursday afternoon, something stranger happened. A man I did not recognize walked up my sidewalk, mid-60s, khaki pants, blue shirt, no delivery, no clipboard. He stopped at the porch steps. "Is this gate 1?" I stared at him. "Excuse me?" He held out one of the cream boarding passes. Number 009, same design as mine, same community connection survey header. "Someone told me to bring this." "Who?" He looked confused. "I thought you knew." I took the pass. "Where did you get it?" "In my mailbox." "What street?" "Mariner Court." That was 4 blocks away. Louis came outside. The man introduced himself as Alan Pierce. He had lived in Harbor Pine 11 years. Never been on my porch. Barely knew me. Yet someone had mailed him a fake boarding pass directing him here. "What did the note say?" I asked. Alan pulled a folded paper from his pocket. One sentence. "Redeem this where people still talk without an agenda." Nobody laughed. I looked at Louis. He looked at me. Someone inside Harbor Pine was distributing numbered boarding passes based on an abandoned HOA engagement survey. Why? And why were they sending residents to my porch? Alan shifted awkwardly. Should I leave? I looked at the 6 chairs, 3 empty, then at the mysterious pass in his hand. No. I took one of my plain index cards, wrote, "Passenger, Allen Seat, 3A. I handed it to him. "That other pass gets you to the gate," he smiled. "What does this one do?" "Lets you sit down." He laughed, then sat. 20 minutes later, Alan was telling Louis about restoring old radios. Janice arrived. Then Sandra. 5 passengers total. No crowding, no obstruction. Just people talking. Beverly appeared at the sidewalk before sunset. She saw Alan. Stopped. Then looked at me, not angry this time. Alarmed. She recognized him. "Alan?" He waved. "Beverly." Her eyes moved toward the cream pass sitting on the table. Her face changed. "You have one of those?" Alan looked confused. "Yes." Beverly stepped onto the walkway. "Where did you get it?" "Mailbox." She looked at me. "How many?" 2. Her voice dropped. "There should not be any." I stood. "You know what they are." She stared at the cream card, then at the porch. "Yes." "What are they?" For several seconds, Beverly said nothing. Finally, a mistake. Louis leaned forward. What kind? She picked up the pass, turned it over, saw the handwriting. Her fingers tightened. This was supposed to be destroyed. I stared. The survey passes? She looked at me sharply. How do you know about the survey? I read the report. Her expression hardened. Mason, stop issuing boarding passes. These are mine. I mean all of it. Why? Because whoever is sending these is trying to restart something that caused problems before. That was not what I expected. What problems? Beverly looked toward Alan, then Janice, then Sandra. People she knew, people who had apparently been part of something years before I moved here. She lowered her voice. The last time Harbor Pine tried organizing residents through informal porch groups, neighbors stopped speaking to each other for almost a year. I laughed once. She did not. I am serious. That killed the joke. What happened? Beverly put the cream boarding pass into her folder, then looked at me. If another one arrives, call me. Why? Because those numbers mean something. What? She hesitated. Households. I stared at her. What households? But Beverly was already backing toward the sidewalk. Before leaving, she looked at my porch one more time. 6 chairs. 5 people. Every passenger holding a free handwritten pass. You think this is harmless, she said. It is sitting. No. Her voice was quieter. The sitting is harmless. She looked down at the cream card. The list was not. Then she walked away carrying my evidence. Louis watched her disappear. What just happened? I looked toward Alan. He looked equally confused. Then Janice noticed something beneath his cream boarding pass, a tiny printed line along the bottom edge, so small none of us had seen it. Group 3. North Loop. Sandra's face changed. What? She stood quickly. Alan lives in North Loop. So? She looked toward me. 3 years ago, that engagement survey divided Harbor Pine into discussion groups. How many? I do not remember. Alan looked at the number on his pass. Mine says 9. I thought about the first pass under my doormat. Number 14. Then Beverly's warning. Households, groups, a list that had somehow caused neighbors to stop speaking. My homemade boarding pass joke had accidentally reopened an old neighborhood system someone clearly wanted revived. And while I had been busy making fun of HOA crowd control, someone else had been quietly deciding exactly who should board my porch next. The next mysterious boarding pass arrived inside a frozen lasagna. Janice found it Sunday morning when she opened the foil tray her sister had dropped off and discovered a cream card sealed inside a sandwich bag beneath the cardboard lid. She called me before breakfast. Mason? What? I have contraband pasta. I sat up. What? There is a boarding pass in my lasagna. That sentence took several seconds to process. 20 minutes later, Janice stood in my kitchen holding the card with salad tongs because she said, evidence should not smell like ricotta. The number was 021. At the bottom, Group 2, East Walk. On the back, bring something worth sharing. Food counts. Stories count more. Louis read it over her shoulder. That is, aggressive community engagement. Janice pointed the tongs at him. Do not mock my lasagna. I would never. You called it evidence pasta. That was admiration. I placed the card beside Alan's. Number 009, Group 3, North Loop. My first card had been 014, Group 1, South Gate. Now Janice had 021, East Walk. The pattern was larger than random porch jokes. Someone was working from an old neighborhood map. Sandra came over with a cardboard storage box. She had spent the morning digging through old HOA papers from the years when she served on the social committee. I found something. Inside were newsletters, meeting agendas, sign-up sheets, and one folded map of Harbor Pine Landing divided into 4 colored zones. Southgate, East Walk, North Loop, West Court. Exactly the group names printed on the passes. Louis looked at me. Congratulations. For what? You have accidentally reopened Terminal Harbor Pine. No. Sandra spread the map across my dining table. The survey company divided the neighborhood into discussion circles. Why? They wanted residents talking in smaller groups instead of only attending huge HOA events. That sounds reasonable. It was. So what went wrong? Sandra hesitated. People started using the groups for complaints. About what? Everything. The HOA had distributed invitations to volunteer hosts, small front porch conversations, 6 to 8 households at a time. No agenda was required at first. Residents could talk about anything: streetlights, dog waste, traffic, loneliness, new neighbor introductions. For about 2 months it worked. Then someone began collecting comments. Not officially. One group host started writing down what people said, another did the same. Then summaries circulated. Some were accurate. Some were not. Private complaints became neighborhood gossip. One resident said she wished the clubhouse events included fewer children. The summary became, "Resident opposes families." Another suggested parking rules should be enforced more consistently. The note became, "Resident wants visitors ticketed." Someone joked that the entrance fountain looked like a wedding cake with plumbing. That line reached the architectural committee. Sandra smiled faintly. The fountain owner was also on the architectural committee. I nodded. Bad tactical joke. Very. The groups turned suspicious. People stopped speaking freely because nobody knew whether a casual comment would end up summarized, forwarded, or turned into an HOA issue. Hosts blamed one another. Neighbors argued over who said what. The program collapsed. The board destroyed the passes, Sandra said. Why boarding passes? They were not called that. She pulled another paper from the box. The original card design said, Connection Pass. Each card carried a household number and discussion group. Someone had changed the heading on the cards now circulating. Boarding Pass. Louis looked impressed. Brand evolution. I stared at the map. So whoever is sending these has access to the old household numbers? Yes. And the original group list? Yes. And they know about my Porch system? Sandra nodded. Definitely. Janice sat down. Why send people here? Nobody answered. Then someone knocked 3 times. Louis looked at me. Gate activity. Stop. I opened the door. A woman stood outside holding a cream boarding pass. Mid-30s, short curly hair, running shoes. She looked mildly embarrassed. Is this Mason's porch? Yes. She held up her card. Apparently I have a connection. Number 031, Group 4, West Court. On the back, sit somewhere you normally walk past. I stepped aside. Come in. Her name was Tessa Rowe. She lived almost at the opposite end of Harbor Pine. I knew her face, but had never spoken to her. We walked onto the porch. Louis checked my hand-written pass tray. Seat 1B available. Tessa laughed. You actually make people use these? Only because the HOA said we were crowded. She looked toward Beverly's street. Oh, that O contained history. You know about the old groups? Tessa's smile disappeared. My mother hosted one. Sandra looked up. West Court? Yes. What happened? Tessa sat. My mother was blamed for leaking notes. The porch became quiet. Tessa's mother, Gloria Rowe, had volunteered as one of the original discussion hosts. She enjoyed it. For the first month. Then private comments from West Court began showing up in HOA emails. Gloria was accused because meetings happened at her house. She denied taking notes. Nobody believed her. The worst incident involved an elderly resident who admitted during a porch conversation that she was struggling to keep up with yard work after surgery. Someone summarized it as, property maintenance concerns likely to worsen. The HOA sent her a preemptive landscaping reminder. She was humiliated. Gloria quit hosting. Some neighbors never spoke to her again. Did anyone ever prove she leaked anything? I asked. No. Did she know who did? She suspected somebody. Who? Tessa looked toward the street. Beverly. Nobody spoke. That was too easy. Too neat. I did not trust neat. Tessa continued. Not because Beverly hated anyone. Then why? She was the architectural liaison. Sandra nodded slowly. She attended some group sessions. My mother believed Beverly was reporting concerns because she thought the HOA needed to know. That sounded believable, not malicious, dangerously organized. Beverly heard people mention problems. Beverly documented them. Beverly passed them to committees. Residents interpreted that as betrayal. What did Beverly say? She denied leaking private comments. Maybe she was telling the truth. Tessa shrugged. Maybe. Then she handed me the mysterious pass. My mother got one too. I looked at her. What? Yesterday. Where is she? Pensacola. She moved? 5 years ago. How did someone send her a Harbor Pine boarding pass? Forwarded mail. That detail bothered me more than anything else so far. Whoever was doing this was not simply pulling names from the current directory. They were using the old household list exactly as it existed 3 years ago. Even former residents. I looked at Sandra. How many households were in the survey? 48, maybe 50. Louis whistled. How many cards have surfaced? 4? Tessa corrected me. 5. She pulled out another card. Number 032. Same West Court group. My mother's. On the back, some conversations were blamed on the wrong people. That changed the tone completely. The passes were not invitations. They were clues. Someone was reopening the old conflict deliberately. I called Beverly. She answered on the second ring. What now? We have 5 passes. Silence. Mason, I told you to call if another appeared. I am calling. How many people have received them? 4 households, 1 former resident. Her voice sharpened. Former. Tessa Rowe's mother. Another silence. Then, do not let this turn into another discussion group. It already isn't. You have people sitting there. That is called a porch. You know what I mean. No, Beverly, I do not. I looked at Tessa, then the old group map. What really happened 3 years ago? Beverly exhaled. I cannot explain this over the phone. Then come over. No. Why? I am not sitting on that porch. Louis called from his chair. Boarding pass is complimentary. Beverly heard him. I definitely am not sitting on that porch. She hung up. 10 minutes later, she arrived anyway. Walking. No folder. No HOA badge. Just Beverly. She stopped at the steps. Louis held up a blank index card. Passenger name? She glared at him. I am not participating. Janice pointed toward an empty chair. You are currently obstructing the aisle. Beverly looked at her. There is no aisle. Then visual congestion. I covered my mouth. Beverly looked at me. Are we going to talk? Yes. I took one index card, wrote, Beverly Sutter seat, 3B, then handed it to her. She stared. I am not keeping this. You do not have to. She took it anyway, then sat. That was the first time Beverly had voluntarily occupied the porch she had spent weeks calling overcrowded. 6 seats. 6 people. Exactly full. Nobody mentioned it. For 30 seconds. Then Louis whispered, Capacity achieved. Beverly turned. One more word, and I leave. He nodded. She looked toward the cream cards on the table. Her expression became serious. Where did these come from? We do not know. You should destroy them. Why? Because they are recreating the program. No, they are pointing us toward what happened. That is worse. Tessa leaned forward. My mother believes you leaked the notes. Beverly did not flinch. I know. Did you? No. Tessa watched her. Beverly continued. I reported one issue. What issue? A broken porch step at the Ellison house. That was confidential? No. I could see it from the sidewalk. Anything else? No. Sandra looked skeptical. You attended several groups? Yes. You carried a notebook. I carry notebooks everywhere. Louis quietly glanced at her empty hands. Beverly noticed. I came here specifically without one. That almost made me smile. Tessa asked, Then who leaked the summaries? Beverly looked at the cream cards. I never found out. But you had access. So did the consultant. The survey company? Yes, Sandra frowned. They left before the arguments got bad. Correct. Why would they leak? They would not. I asked, Who collected the group feedback? Beverly hesitated, then said, Residents mailed anonymous response cards to the clubhouse. That was new. What response cards? Each discussion group received a packet. Hosts could hand out anonymous cards afterward. Residents wrote what they wanted the HOA to know. No names required. The cards were supposed to let people raise concerns without turning porch conversations into official records. Then the process got mixed up. Comments from anonymous cards began appearing alongside informal host summaries. Nobody knew which came from where. Who typed the summaries? I asked. Beverly looked toward Sandra. Sandra suddenly looked uncomfortable. Not me? I did not say you. I know. Then who? Sandra looked toward the old papers. Marcy Dane. The name meant nothing to me. Tessa recognized it. Clubhouse coordinator? Sandra nodded. Marcy had worked part-time for the HOA for almost a decade. She managed room reservations, newsletters, community notices, volunteer rosters, and piles of paperwork nobody wanted. She had retired 2 years earlier. Where does she live? I asked. Still here, Beverly said. Which street? West Court. Tessa leaned back. My mother's group. That was interesting. Not proof, but interesting. Beverly looked irritated. Do not turn Marcy into a villain. I'm not turning anyone into anything. She was kind. Kind people can make mistakes. Beverly looked away. That response told me something. You suspect her? No. You just defended her before I accused her. Beverly sighed. After the program collapsed, I found duplicate summary sheets in the clubhouse copier tray. Whose? No names. What was wrong with that? They included comments that had never been submitted officially. Tessa froze. My mother's meetings? Some? Did you tell anyone? No. Why not? Beverly's answer came slowly. Because by then everybody was blaming everybody. She believed exposing the duplicate sheets without knowing who created them would make things worse. So she destroyed the remaining connection passes. The board ended the program. Everyone moved on badly, until now. I looked at the cream cards. Who still has the household list? Clubhouse archives. Locked? Yes. Who has access? Board officers? Who else? Beverly hesitated. Administrative volunteers. Sandra looked at her. How many? Currently? 3. Louis leaned forward. Does Marcy still volunteer? Beverly did not answer immediately. Then, once a month. There it was. Not guilt, access. A reason to talk to her. I asked Beverly to call. She refused. This is becoming exactly what I wanted to avoid. What? People sitting around, speculating. Tessa's voice sharpened. My mother lost half her neighborhood friends because nobody asked the right person a direct question. Beverly looked at her. That landed. She pulled out her phone. Marcy answered. Beverly put the call on speaker. Marcy, it's Beverly. Oh, Lord. We all looked at each other. Beverly frowned. Why did you say that? Because I know why you are calling. My stomach tightened. Beverly's voice changed. Are you sending the passes? Yes. Nobody spoke. Louis slowly set down his potato salad. Beverly stood. Why? Marcy laughed softly. Because you finally created another porch problem. Beverly looked at me. What does that mean? You complained Mason had too many people sitting outside. That is not. You always hated unsupervised groups. Beverly's face hardened. Marcy. I still have the old cards. You told us they were destroyed. You destroyed your copies. Why are you mailing them? Because I am tired of being the only person who knows what actually happened. That sentence changed everything. Tessa leaned toward the phone. What happened? Marcy went quiet. Who is that? Tessa Rowe. Long pause. Gloria's daughter? Yes. Marcy exhaled. I owe your mother an apology. Tessa went completely still. Marcy explained. 3 years earlier, she was the person who typed the engagement summaries. She received anonymous response cards, host notes, volunteer notes, emails, handwritten comments. Everything. The process was messy. At first, she tried to separate them. Then board members began asking for condensed summaries. So Marcy condensed. Too much. A joke became a complaint. A concern became a position. An uncertain comment became a recommendation. Not because anyone ordered her to manipulate them, because she believed clarity was helpful. She removed context. Then residents read the summaries and no longer recognized what they had actually said. I turned conversations into minutes, Marcy said. Tessa stared at the phone. You made my mother look like she was reporting people. Yes. Why did you not tell anyone? I was ashamed. Beverly sat back down slowly. You let everyone blame the hosts. I know. You let them blame me. I know. Beverly's voice cracked slightly. You knew? Yes. The porch went silent. The old conflict was not a conspiracy. It was worse in a smaller way. One well-meaning administrator had flattened human conversations into neat summaries until they stopped sounding human. Then everyone fought over the summaries. Marcy retired. The program disappeared. Nobody corrected the story. Why now? I asked. Because of your boarding passes. My joke? Yes. Marcy had seen photos in the neighborhood group. Free passes. Assigned chairs. 6 people maximum. A porch being managed like transportation because the HOA claimed people were crowding it. She laughed, then remembered the old connection passes stored in a box at her house. So you started mailing them? Yes. Why not just tell people? Because nobody listens to retired administrators. Louis looked around. You mailed mystery invitations instead? I admit the strategy became theatrical. I liked her immediately, and was also deeply annoyed. Tessa asked, why send former residents? Because they were part of it. What do the numbers mean? Original household numbers. What are you trying to accomplish? Marcy paused, then said, one conversation without summaries. Nobody spoke. One place, no minutes, no committee notes, no anonymous cards. No one translating what someone else meant. She continued. Just the people who were hurt by the old program talking directly. Beverly shook her head. No. Marcy laughed. Of course you say no. Because it could reopen every argument. They are already open. Not all of them. They never closed, Beverly. People just got quieter. That landed on me. The porch had become social because people did not need an agenda. That was exactly what the old program tried to manufacture, and exactly what bureaucracy ruined. Marcy wanted one, unsupervised conversation to finish what the structured one had broken. Unfortunately, she had chosen my porch. I looked around, 26 feet, 6 chairs, 1 HOA president, 1 former host's daughter, 1 woman with lasagna, 1 retired logistics planner who had somehow become gate management for unresolved neighborhood feelings. No. Everyone looked at me. Beverly almost smiled. Then I continued. Not like this. Marcy was quiet on the phone. If people show up because mystery cards ordered them here, Beverly will be right. Beverly nodded. Thank you. It becomes a planned gathering. Her smile disappeared. I continued. And I am not turning my porch into a reunion tribunal. Louis whispered. Limited service. I ignored him. But people can come one at a time. Sandra looked at me. What? 1 pass. 1 seat. 1 conversation. If somebody has something unresolved, they can sit. No crowd. No group meeting. No summaries. No audience. Janice smiled. A connection flight. I stared at her. Please do not help. Marcy laughed over the phone. That might work? Beverly shook her head. No. I looked at her. You started this by saying the porch was too crowded. Yes. Fine. I pointed toward the chairs. Maximum 6. Already is. One visitor connected to the old program at a time. Mason, no special events. No public invitations. No meetings. No agenda. Just a free boarding pass before anyone sits. Louis nodded. Controlled passenger flow. Beverly glared at him, then looked at me. You are impossible. I plan freight schedules. I know. Capacity management. She closed her eyes. That evening, Marcy agreed to stop mailing passes. She would give me the remaining names only if those people wanted contact. No surprise arrivals. No manipulation. I thought the mystery was solved. It was not. Because the next morning, before Marcy had given me anything, I found another cream pass under my doormat. Number 001. No group. No household zone. Just founding passenger. On the back, ask Beverly why her name is first. I stared at it, then looked toward Beverly's house. The card could not have come from Marcy. She had promised to stop. I called her. She answered immediately. Number 1? Yes. Silence. Then, that is not one of mine. My stomach tightened. Whose is it? I do not know. You created the old cards? Yes. What does number 1 mean? Marcy hesitated, then said, the first household in the engagement pilot. Beverly? No. I looked down at the card. Then why does it say her name? Marcy's voice became quieter. Because household 1 was the Sutter house. I frowned. That is Beverly. No, a pause. Her mother. That was the shocking turn. Beverly had not simply served on the board during the old Porch program. Her family had been the first household enrolled. And according to Marcy, the entire connection project had started because of something Beverly herself had asked the HOA to fix years before she became president. I looked toward my 6 chairs. The woman trying hardest to stop spontaneous porch gatherings might have been the reason Harbor Pine created them in the first place. I did not show Beverly the card immediately. That was partly strategic. Mostly, I wanted 1 hour without another neighborhood mystery involving stationery. Louis arrived around 9, carrying 2 coffees and a breakfast sandwich. He saw the cream card on my kitchen counter. New passenger? Unfortunately. He read the front. Founding passenger, then the back. Ask Beverly why her name is first. Louis whistled softly. That has production value. Marcy says it is not hers. Better production value. I told him what Marcy had explained. Household 1 belonged to Beverly's mother. The connection project itself apparently started after something Beverly wanted fixed. Louis sat down. What? I do not know. Noise? Maybe. Parking? Maybe. Porch congestion? I looked at him. He smiled. That would be poetry. I called Sandra. She remembered Beverly's mother, Eleanor Sutter. Eleanor had lived in Harbor Pine for almost 20 years before moving to an assisted living community near Fairhope. She was friendly, Sandra said. Very. Hosted things? Constantly. That surprised me. What kind? Coffee? Birthday cake. People waiting for rides. Nothing formal. I looked toward my porch. Sandra noticed the silence. Oh. Her porch was like mine? More crowded? I laughed. No. Yes. How crowded? 10 people sometimes. Beverly's mother? Yes. The woman complaining about 6 people on my porch grew up with 10 people on hers? Sandra smiled. Beverly complained about that too. That changed everything. Back then, she was younger, still an adult. She used to say her mother collected people. I sat down. What does that mean? Exactly what it sounds like. Eleanor's porch had become an informal neighborhood stop. People left casseroles, dropped off packages, waited for children, asked for help. New residents were told, if you do not know someone, ask Eleanor. Beverly hated the lack of boundaries, not because she hated her mother, because Eleanor said yes to everyone. That sounded familiar in a different way. I asked, what did Beverly want the HOA to fix? Sandra hesitated. Her mother was getting overwhelmed. That killed the comedy. How? People depended on her. Too much. Eleanor became the neighborhood message board before neighborhood message boards existed. Someone would tell her about a broken sprinkler. Someone else needed a ride. Another neighbor wanted somebody to check on a dog. People assumed Eleanor knew everything. Often she did. But as she got older, the constant traffic became exhausting. Beverly tried to convince residents to stop treating the Sutter porch like community headquarters. Nobody listened because Eleanor herself kept inviting people in. So Beverly went to the HOA? Yes. What did she ask for? More places for people to connect. I stared. Not fewer. More. The original Community Connection survey had been Beverly's idea, not because she wanted to control conversation, because she wanted the social load distributed. If people had several informal places to gather, maybe Eleanor's porch would stop carrying the whole neighborhood. That was surprisingly thoughtful. And it explained why Beverly had supported smaller discussion groups. Then why did she now hate mine? Sandra sighed. Because it went badly. The connection circles did not reduce dependence cleanly. They created new conflicts. Then summaries leaked. Gloria got blamed. Beverly got blamed. Marcy kept quiet. The program collapsed. After that, Beverly became convinced that informal gathering spaces created social mess unless somebody defined the boundaries. There it was. Not power. Fear. She had watched one porch overwhelm her mother, then watched a program built to distribute connection-damage friendships instead. Now she saw my porch getting popular. And she thought the same cycle was starting again. I looked at the cream pass. Who sent this? Sandra shook her head. No idea. Louis had been unusually quiet. Then he asked, where is Eleanor now? Bay Haven residence. That was 15 minutes away. I looked at him. No, he shrugged. I did not say anything. You were about to suggest visiting an elderly woman because of a mystery card. Yes. No. Why? Because this is becoming weird. It was already weird when we issued boarding passes for chairs. Fair. I called Beverly instead. She answered. Another pass? Yes. Silence. What number? 1. Longer silence. Where did you get it? Doormat. Marcy? No. Then destroy it. No. Mason. Was the original survey your idea? She did not answer. Beverly? Yes. That single word sounded tired. Why? Not over the phone. Then come over. No. You always say that. And then I regret walking over. Gate 3 has availability. She hung up. 20 minutes later, she arrived. No folder, again. Progress. I had already filled out the card. Beverly Sutter, seat 1. She stared at it. That is not funny. It is technically your family gate. She sat anyway. Louis moved to 2A. I took 2B, 3 empty chairs. No crowd. I put the cream pass on the table. Beverly looked at it, then away. Who sent this? I was hoping you knew. I do not. Why was your mother household one? Because the pilot started on our street. Because of you? Yes. She rubbed her hands together, then told me the story herself. Eleanor Sutter loved people, too much for her own schedule. If somebody knocked, she opened the door. If somebody needed something, she tried to help. If a neighbor had no one to talk to, Eleanor found a chair. She never knew when to say no, Beverly said. That sounds generous. It was. Her voice changed. Until it was not. Eleanor started missing medical appointments because neighbors dropped by. She forgot to eat lunch. She kept spare keys for people, accepted deliveries, watched children, fed dogs. The entire neighborhood gradually treated her availability like infrastructure. Beverly had been caring for her husband during cancer treatment at the same time. She was already stretched thin. Then neighbors called Beverly whenever Eleanor did not answer. Your mother has my package. Your mother said she would check something. Your mother knows where the spare key is. Beverly began resenting the porch. Not the people. The expectation. That was the emotional center I had not seen coming. I asked the board to help create alternatives. Conversation nodes. She laughed bitterly. Yes. That phrase is awful. I know. The consultant loved it. What happened? You read what happened. Not your version. She looked toward the street. For a while, it worked. People gathered in smaller groups. Eleanor got fewer drop-ins. Beverly started believing maybe the social pressure could be shared. Then the summaries began circulating. Private jokes became complaints. Concerns became accusations. People started asking Beverly which groups she had attended, what she had written down, who she had reported. I became the villain anyway. Even though you did not leak them. No. You knew Marcy might have. Later. Why not say anything? Because I did not know enough. She looked at me. And because I was angry. At who? Everyone. That was honest. My mother moved 2 years later. Because of this? No. Age. But she was relieved. That mattered. Then Beverly pointed toward my porch. When I started seeing people here every evening, I remembered her porch. I looked around. 6 chairs. You thought I was becoming Eleanor. I thought the neighborhood was building another place everybody would start depending on. That is not what is happening. I know that now. Do you? She hesitated. Mostly. Louis raised one hand. Current dependency limited to potato salad. Beverly gave him a look. He lowered his hand. I asked, "Why issue the crowd warning instead of talking to me?" Her face tightened. "Because rules feel cleaner." That was probably the most revealing sentence she ever said. Rules had boundaries. Conversations did not. I picked up the cream pass. "Then who sent this?" She shook her head. "No idea." That mystery bothered her more than the rest. It bothered me, too. Marcy had stopped. Sandra had not sent it. Tessa had not. Louis denied everything with offensive sincerity. I called Janice. "No, Alan, no." Then Beverly looked at the card differently. "Turn it over." I did. She pointed toward the blue border. There. Tiny printing. Barely visible. HPCC-01. What is that? Harbor Pine Community Connections. The consultant? She nodded. The original contractor branded their prototype cards that way. Marcy's cards did not have it. She had recreated the old design from archived files. This one was original. Not a copy. An actual first-run card from 3 years ago. How many existed? Maybe 50. Where were they stored? Clubhouse. Destroyed? Supposedly. Who could have kept one? Anyone involved in the pilot? That expanded the suspect pool unhelpfully. Then Beverly said, "My mother." I looked at her. She kept everything. Would she have number 1? Probably. Louis smiled. Founding passenger. Beverly looked at him. Do not. Then her phone rang. She looked at the screen. Her entire expression changed. Mom. Nobody spoke. She answered. Hi. Pause. Then, you did what? I looked at Louis. His eyebrows rose. Beverly stood. No. Another pause. No, Mom, that is not funny. Longer pause. Then she looked directly at me. You mailed Mason a card? Louis slowly covered his mouth. I nearly laughed. Beverly listened, then closed her eyes. Why? Eleanor's voice was too faint for us to hear clearly. But Beverly's face told the story in pieces. Annoyance, embarrassment, then disbelief, finally reluctant amusement. She put the phone on speaker. An older woman's voice filled the porch. Mason? Yes, ma'am. I hear you run an airline. Louis lost control immediately. Beverly pointed at him. Stop. Eleanor laughed. I like him. I smiled. Thank you. You found my pass? Yes? Good. Why did you send it? Because my daughter is repeating herself. Beverly covered her face. Mom, what? You are on speaker. I know. Eleanor had seen photos of Harbor Pine Porch service through a neighbor. She recognized the joke instantly. Boarding passes for porch chairs. Capacity. Defined seating. Clear limits. Exactly the kind of structure Beverly had wanted years earlier. Except this time, the structure was silly enough that nobody mistook it for control. You complained his porch was crowded? Eleanor asked. Beverly sighed. Yes. How many chairs? 6. How many people? Usually 4 to 6. Eleanor laughed. Mine had 12 once. I remember. You hated that. I remember. You were right. That stopped Beverly. What? I said you were right. Eleanor's voice softened. I should have told people no more often. Beverly sat down. None of us moved. I thought you liked everyone coming. I did. Then why did you never say anything? Because liking people and being tired of people can happen at the same time. That sentence hit the porch harder than any mystery clue. Beverly stared at the floor. Eleanor continued. You tried to fix it with a program. It became a disaster. Yes. You know about that? I lived there. People blamed me. I know. Why did you never? I thought you knew I did not. Beverly looked almost angry. How would I know? Because you are my daughter. That is not communication. Eleanor laughed. No. It is not. No. Then both women went quiet. Louis stood, without a joke. He walked inside my house. Janice followed. Sandra left the porch too. They gave Beverly privacy. I started to stand. She shook her head. Stay. So I stayed. For the next 15 minutes, Beverly and her mother talked about things that had nothing to do with HOA rules. Eleanor admitted she had kept the original connection pass because she thought Household 1 sounded prestigious. She had found it in a photo album the previous week. A neighbor told her about my boarding pass joke. She mailed it. No conspiracy, no hidden organizer, no grand plan. Just an elderly woman with a stamp and comedic timing. The handwritten message was hers too. Ask Beverly why her name is first. She thought you would dodge the question, Eleanor said. She was correct, I said. Beverly glared at the phone. Both of you. Eleanor laughed. Then she asked something unexpected. Can I get a boarding pass? Beverly looked at me. I looked at Beverly. Guest request, I said. She sighed. When? Next Sunday. Beverly immediately said, No. Eleanor replied, I was not asking you. I nearly fell out of my chair. Sunday became the problem, because Eleanor wanted to visit. Marcy heard about it. Then Tessa, then Gloria Rowe. People from the old connection program started saying they might like to stop by. Not to confront anyone, not to reopen every argument, just to see each other. That could become exactly what Beverly feared. A crowd. So I did what logistics people do. I restricted capacity. 6 chairs, no exceptions, 1-hour windows, free boarding passes, no standing audience, no lawn overflow, no additional chairs. If someone wanted to visit, they reserved a seat. Not because I wanted an event. Because I did not want an event. Louis printed a tiny sign. Harbor Pine Porch. Service, seating capacity. 6. No overbooking. No standby. No emotional baggage over 50 pounds. I crossed out the last line. He wrote it back. Beverly saw the schedule. This is now organized. Yes. You said you do not host events. I am preventing one. You have time slots. Because 20 people want 6 chairs. That is an event. No food table. No speeches. No agenda. No crowd. 6 people sit. Then they leave. Next 6. She stared. You built an airline. I built rotation. Same thing. Then the shocking development happened Saturday evening. The city fire marshal did not arrive. No police. No lawyers. Something worse for Beverly. The HOA's insurance representative emailed her, not because I contacted them, because somebody had forwarded photos of the boarding pass system while asking whether the original porch warning had any genuine occupancy basis. The answer was embarrassingly simple. Private residential porches were governed by building capacity and safe egress. My porch was nowhere near structural or safety limits. The HOA's phrase visual crowding had no insurance meaning. Worse, the representative asked why the association was documenting head counts on private porches without a defined nuisance complaint. Beverly showed me the email. Her face looked exhausted. They think we created a liability practice. What does that mean? If we start formally tracking private occupancy, somebody could argue we assumed responsibility for monitoring it. Louis slowly smiled. I understood. The HOA had tried to invent a vague crowd control standard. By documenting it repeatedly, they risked creating expectations that the HOA was responsible for determining whether private porches were safe. Beverly hated undefined responsibility more than anything. This warning was a mistake, she said. Yes. I am withdrawing it. Good. But Sunday cannot turn into chaos. It will not. How do you know? I handed her a boarding pass. She looked down. Beverly Sutter. Seat 1, a Sunday. First departure. She stared at it. Why am I first? I smiled. Founding passenger. She looked offended. Then laughed. Actually laughed. Sunday morning had not even arrived yet, and the porch warning was already dead. But the old Harbor Pine connection mess was still waiting. Eleanor was coming. Gloria was coming. Marcy wanted to face people she had misrepresented. Beverly would be sitting 3 feet away, 6 chairs at a time. No speeches, no summaries, no committee minutes. And for the first time in years, the woman who trusted rules more than conversations had agreed to board one without knowing exactly where it would go. Sunday morning began with Eleanor Sutter refusing to board until someone stamped her pass. We do not have stamps, I told her. She held the cream founding passenger card against her purse. Then what kind of operation is this? Louis appeared beside me, holding a red self-inking office stamp he had apparently purchased specifically to betray me. Problem solved. I stared at him. What does it say? He pressed it onto a scrap of paper. Cleared for sitting. Eleanor smiled. I like him. Beverly closed her eyes. Of course you do. The first seating window had 6 passengers. Eleanor, Beverly, Marcy Dane, Tessa Rowe, Tessa's mother, Gloria, and me. Louis tried to classify himself as ground crew. I made him sit inside. No audience. I am operational support. You are emotional turbulence. He went inside, muttering about labor conditions. The porch looked strangely ordinary. 6 chairs, no crowd, no standing neighbors, no buffet table, no microphones, no handwritten complaints. Just 6 people sitting in a space Beverly had once considered too socially dangerous to leave unmanaged. Eleanor occupied seat 1B and immediately ignored every imaginary airline rule. She put her purse beneath Beverly's chair, moved her own chair 3 inches toward Marcy, then complained that my ceiling fan created headwind. Beverly looked at her. You have been here 4 minutes. I have feedback. This is why nobody can manage you. Eleanor smiled. You tried. I almost interrupted. Then Marcy spoke. I should go first. The humor disappeared naturally. Nobody had planned an order. That was important. No agenda, no moderator, no minutes. But Marcy had spent 3 years knowing she had done something wrong, and apparently she had reached the point where waiting felt worse than saying it badly. She looked at Gloria. I made people believe you reported them. Gloria sat very still. Yes. I did not mean to. That did not help. No. Marcy nodded. I summarized conversations that were not mine to summarize. Gloria looked toward Tessa, then back at Marcy. You turned everything into statements. I know. You made jokes sound serious. Yes. You made concerns sound like complaints. Yes. And when people blamed me, you said nothing. Marcy swallowed. Yes. That answer was harder than an excuse would have been. Gloria looked at her for several seconds, then said, I hated you. Marcy nodded. I know. I hated Beverly, too. Beverly looked toward her. I know. I hated half of West Court. Tessa glanced at her mother. I know. Gloria looked irritated. Does everyone know everything? Eleanor raised one hand. I usually did. Beverly turned. Mom. What? The tension broke slightly. Gloria smiled despite herself. Then she looked at Marcy again. I do not forgive 3 years and 10 minutes. I am not asking you to. Good. But I believe you. Marcy's eyes filled. She looked down. That is more than I expected. No one clapped. Thank God. Nobody needed a movie moment. People do not repair friendships because background music reaches the right chord. Sometimes they simply stop carrying one wrong version of a story. That was enough for the first flight. At the end of the hour, Eleanor refused to leave. Your pass expired, I told her. I am 79. That is age, not status. I have priority boarding. Priority does not mean permanent occupancy. She looked at Beverly. He is worse than you. Beverly smiled. I know. Eleanor eventually surrendered, seat 1B, to the next passenger. Louis stamped her pass completed. I had never authorized that stamp either. The second group included Alan Pierce, Sandra Mills, Janice Cole, Louis, Beverly again, and a former North Loop host named Warren Beck. Beverly had not planned to stay for 2 sessions. Eleanor told her to. That settled it faster than HOA procedure ever could. Warren arrived carrying no mystery pass, no paperwork at all. He stopped at the steps. Where do I sit? Louis checked the cards. 2B. Warren nodded. Window seat? There is no window. Excellent. He sat. The conversation wandered. That was the point. They talked about the old connection program for a while. Then hurricanes. Then Warren's hip replacement. Then why the neighborhood fountain always leaned slightly left after heavy rain. Nobody summarized anything. Nobody translated a joke into policy. Nobody tried to extract action items. At one point, Sandra said, the entrance shrubs still look terrible. Everyone looked instinctively toward Beverly. She froze. Old reflex. A complaint had been spoken. On a porch. In front of the HOA president. 3 years earlier, that sentence might have entered a summary. Beverly looked at Sandra, then deliberately leaned back. "Are you asking me to do something?" Sandra thought about it. "No." "Then I am going to continue sitting." Louis stamped an imaginary card in the air. "Excellent boundary control." Beverly pointed at him. "Do not make me enjoy that." He smiled. The third group brought the first actual argument. 2 former East Walk participants, Paula Jensen and Eric Moss, had not spoken properly in almost 3 years. A summary from the old program had claimed Eric wanted children prohibited from playing basketball in the street. Paula had 3 children at the time. She had considered the comment personally targeted. Eric insisted he had never said it. Marcy admitted she could not remember where that sentence came from. Then Eric said, "I complained about 1 hoop." Paula frowned. "Whose?" "Mine." Everyone stared. Eric explained that his own portable hoop had been damaged and leaned into the street after a storm. He told someone it should not be used until repaired, somewhere between porch conversation, anonymous card, and summary sheet. That became, "Basketball activity in streets should be prohibited for safety." Paula sat back. "You are telling me I ignored you for 3 years because your hoop was crooked?" Eric nodded. "Apparently." She stared, then began laughing. Not politely. The kind of laugh that comes from discovering your anger has been living in the wrong house. Eric laughed too. Beverly covered her face. "This program was a disaster." Marcy sighed. "Yes." Louis whispered from the doorway, historical baggage weight exceeding limits. I turned. "You are not assigned to this session. I am delivering water. Deliver silently." He handed out bottles. The porch sessions continued all afternoon. 6 people maximum, no exceptions. Some conversations were emotional. Some were pointless. One group spent 20 minutes arguing about whether Harbor Pine had ever had good Christmas lights. Another resolved nothing at all. 2 former neighbors realized they still disliked each other for perfectly current reasons. That was useful too. The boarding passes did not magically make people kinder. They simply slowed the room down enough that nobody could hide inside a crowd. One person spoke. Someone else answered. No summary, no anonymous translation, no committee language. By 5, my porch had hosted 32 people across 6 rotating sessions without ever holding more than 6 at once. The HOA's original complaint had been excessive porch occupancy. I had responded by creating the most aggressively controlled sitting arrangement in Alabama. Beverly noticed the irony around session 4. She stood beside the pass tray while I filled out the next cards. "You realize this is more organized than any event I run?" "Yes." "And you did it specifically because I complained about crowding?" "Yes." "And now nobody can accuse the porch of being crowded." "That was the theory." She looked toward 6 empty chairs between sessions. "I hate how well this works." "Thank you." That was not praise. I accepted it as such. Then something happened that made the entire day worth more than the joke. Eleanor was waiting near the walkway for her ride back to Bay Haven. She sat on the porch step beside Beverly. Not in a chair. Technically unauthorized. I decided not to enforce it. Eleanor looked toward the rotating passes. You needed this when I lived here. Beverly frowned. Boarding passes? Limits. Beverly said nothing. Eleanor continued. I should have put 6 chairs out. You had 10. 12. I remember. And when 12 were full, I should have said, come back later. You never would. No, Eleanor smiled. That is why I needed someone to teach me. Beverly looked toward her mother. I tried. I know. No. You got angry. I know. You kept saying yes anyway. I know. Beverly's voice became quieter. Then everybody got angry at me when I tried to create alternatives. Eleanor nodded. That was not fair. Beverly looked surprised. Her mother continued. But you also tried to fix people with structure, because structure listens better than people. I nearly walked inside. That sentence was not for me. Beverly stared at the porch floor. Rules are easier. Yes. They are clear. Sometimes. They do not misunderstand. Eleanor smiled. They misunderstand beautifully. Beverly laughed softly. Then her mother touched her hand. You were right that I needed boundaries. Pause. You were wrong that everybody needs yours. That was the emotional payoff. No dramatic reconciliation, no speech. Just a mother giving her daughter the sentence she should have given her years earlier. Beverly nodded, then wiped one eye before anyone could. Pretend not to notice. I looked toward the street. Louis suddenly became very interested in the potato salad cooler. Good man. By evening, the porch sessions ended. Nobody wanted another scheduled one. That surprised Beverly. She had expected the program to restart. It did not. People exchanged phone numbers, made private plans. Gloria and Marcy agreed to meet for coffee in a week. Paula invited Eric to look at the new basketball hoop her grandchildren used. Eleanor announced she would accept visitors at Bay Haven only if they called first. Beverly stared at her. Did you just establish a boundary? Yes. I need witnesses. You have 5. Louis raised his stamp. I can certify it. Eleanor laughed. The old connection problem did not need another connection program. That was the lesson. People needed ways to talk, not machinery for talking. No cards, no summaries, no committee funnels, no anonymous interpretation. My boarding passes were ridiculous enough to remain what they were supposed to be. A joke about seats. The following Tuesday, Beverly formally withdrew my excessive porch occupancy/visual crowding warning. She came over with the paper. I was alone. 1 chair occupied. She handed it to me. No violation. Good. I also removed the draft occupancy guidance. There was draft guidance? Do not ask. I looked at the cancellation. Reason: no documented obstruction, nuisance, unsafe occupancy, or covenant violation. Clean. Specific. Almost beautiful. What about visual crowding? Beverly sighed. I never want to hear those words again. Can I frame them? No. Boarding lounge decor? No. Historical display? Mason? I smiled. Fine. Then she surprised me. The board is revising complaint standards. How? If someone reported crowding, the complaint had to identify an actual effect. Blocked sidewalk, noise, unsafe access, parking, something measurable. Not simply too many people appear to be enjoying chairs. That was useful. The HOA was not surrendering its ability to address real nuisances. It was surrendering the idea that a full porch was automatically one. "What about spontaneous gatherings?" I asked. She looked toward the chairs. "Not my department." "You are president." "Still not my department." Progress. Harbor Pine Porch service remained. I expected to retire the boarding passes after the warning disappeared. The neighborhood refused. People liked them. So I simplified the system. No reservations unless there was a real reason. No scheduled seating windows. No connection groups. If someone visited and a chair was open, they got a free pass. If all 6 were full, they came back later or stood for a minute without forming a second terminal. The rule became 6 seats, 6 passes. No nonsense beyond reasonable levels. Louis objected to the final phrase. He considered unreasonable nonsense part of the brand. Janice added a 7th category: dessert pre-clearance. Anyone arriving with pie received immediate boarding. I tried to stop this. Nobody listened. Trevor created a mock route map. Seat 1A traveled to Ceiling Fan Coast. Seat 2B served Hydrangea International. The rocking chair became long-haul recline service. I removed the map. It returned laminated. There are limits to homeowner authority. The mystery passes disappeared completely. Marcy gave the remaining old connection passes to the residents whose numbers were printed on them. Not as invitations, as souvenirs. Some people kept them. Some threw them away. Gloria tore hers in half. Marcy watched. Did not object. That was probably healthy. The original #1 pass stayed with Eleanor. She framed it in her room at Bay Haven beside a photograph of her old Harbor Pine porch. Beverly pretended this annoyed her. It did not. The funniest consequence fell on Beverly months later. The HOA hosted its annual holiday social at the clubhouse. Usually residents wandered in, grabbed food, and filled every chair until people were standing around awkwardly. This year, Beverly changed the layout. 6 chairs per conversation cluster, wide aisles, clear walkways, small groups, no central crowd. Louis noticed instantly. He walked up to her holding an index card. "What?" He handed it. "Over." Beverly Sutter Gate. Clubhouse. Status: boarding system adopted. She stared. "I did not adopt your system." 6 seat clusters. That is room layout. Clear aisles. Safety. Controlled density. Comfort. Smaller conversations. She stopped. He smiled. "Welcome aboard." Beverly looked at me across the room. I raised both hands. "Not involved." She tore the pass in half, then put both halves into her purse instead of throwing them away. I saw that. I never mentioned it. Mostly. The porch remained socially important without becoming community headquarters. That mattered to me. People still stopped. But now I had learned something from Eleanor, too. Sometimes I said no. If work was awful, I closed the door. If I wanted quiet, no passes. If 6 chairs were full, that was enough. Nobody expected me to be available simply because my porch was. That boundary made the porch better. Beverly learned boundaries did not always require HOA rules. I learned hospitality did not require unlimited capacity. Eleanor learned to call before visiting. Louis learned absolutely nothing. He once tried to issue himself a lifetime platinum boarding pass. I revoked it. He appealed to Beverly. She denied the appeal. We were finally using bureaucracy responsibly. One warm evening, almost a year after the original warning, Beverly walked by while 6 of us sat outside. Every chair occupied. Janice, Louis, Trevor, Alan, me, and a new neighbor named Marcus who had moved in that week. Beverly stopped at the sidewalk. She looked at the chairs, then at the 6 passes clipped to the little tray. I waited. Old habits are difficult. For 1 second, I saw her count us. Then she caught herself. She smiled. Full flight? Louis nodded. Maximum legal enjoyment. Beverly looked at him. There is no legal enjoyment limit. Excellent policy. She continued walking. Then Marcus asked, Was that the HOA president? Yes. Why did she ask if the flight was full? I looked around the porch. Everyone smiled. That is a long story. Louis lifted his pass. Non-stop service. I shook my head. No. Marcus looked confused. Janice handed him a piece of peach cobbler. You will understand eventually. That is how Harbor Pine remembered the whole ridiculous conflict, not as the year the HOA banned porch gatherings, because they never actually managed to. It became the year one vague complaint about visual crowding accidentally forced us to figure out something more useful than seating capacity. A porch can be full without being a nuisance. A person can love company and still need limits. A neighborhood can stay connected without turning every conversation into data. And sometimes the safest way to stop bureaucracy from ruining something human is to make the bureaucracy so obviously ridiculous that nobody forgets what it was supposed to protect. Beverly told me my porch had too many people. So I issued free boarding passes. She wanted fewer bodies. She got assigned seating. She wanted structure. She got gate 1A. She wanted control. She eventually learned that 6 chairs and a little common sense worked better than a rule nobody could define. And somehow, the woman who feared spontaneous porch gatherings ended up helping prove why they mattered, as long as nobody treated the host like public infrastructure and nobody turned a neighbor's sentence into an official summary. That is exactly the kind of HOA revenge we keep alive at Sovereign Verdict, funny enough to make the neighborhood laugh, satisfying enough to make the bad rule disappear, and human enough to leave everyone a little smarter than when the argument started. If you enjoy original HOA revenge, where ridiculous rules get rerouted into consequences nobody expects, subscribe to Sovereign Verdict. There are plenty more neighborhoods where common sense is still waiting at the gate with a free boarding pass.